Everybody, time shifts, different countries, so we finally got here, or I finally got here, should I say, and I wrote something down today. So again, blessed love everybody, whoever's going to be sharing. This will be replayed. So yeah, so this space isn't really about information, it's about remembering. It's called the Living Field. Welcome back to the Living Field. You know, many reasons why I called it the Living Field, but that's another topic. So tonight I want to share 3 small glimpses, to be honest. And there was a moment from International Women's Day. You know, we happened to be in Madrid, happened to be at that time, and happened to be within the 2 hours of when it was celebrated. It's like, oh my gosh, it was powerful, so powerful. Now that moment brought me back to some personal moments, you know, one with my sister, and finally a deeper reflection called A Glimpse Now and Again, and that was to do with my mother who passed about 12 years ago. You know, sometimes life only gives us glimpses now and again, so this is why the glimpse now and again unfolded, and the whole Women's International Day spurred it on. I could talk about my 120-day juice fast, I could talk about my 8-day dry fast, and 15 days liquid after that. I could be talking parasite cleanses, but it's Women's International Day today, and we all come from women. We all come from women. So the more us men man up, and, you know, the women get back in line as well, and the men support the women back in line, because we all come from women, the better things will be. Anyway, so I'm going to play a first clip, hopefully, from today. We're going to see if we can get it. Bear with us. Let's see if we can get it. And if we can't, I'm going to have to play it off the phone. Let's just have a look. It's not showing what we've got here. So bear with us a little bit. No, there's nothing. So you know what I'm going to have to do? So this is going to change the flow of things today, or change the plan. So I'm going to have to go to, here we go. So I'm going to play it like this. Just going to make it up as we go along. But the big main purpose, could not have done this. I could have talked about many other topics, but it's celebration for women. You know, we all come from women. So anyway, here's a bit of a powerful 1-minute take. It's going to be in a minute. Just bear with me. We will get this technical stuff sorted out very soon. I mean, how amazing. Hope this was happening in England, all over the world. Beautiful. And there we go. And there's many different ways of celebrating, should I say, Women's International Day. You know, but it's so that got me reflecting on my sister two sisters actually who've passed away, and my mother who has passed maybe 10 years ago, my sister 12 years ago, and an elder sister, youngest of 6. She passed away when I was 28, so that's many years ago, and she was 33. So that was the first clip, but because we can't play them now, somehow we cannot find how to. How about this actually? Let me just check this out. It was not that. So, I'm going to move on to the next part. So just bear with me. So like I say earlier today, seeing the live celebration, it really was powerful, really powerful, honestly. And sometimes the field speaks through rhythm, and it was pure rhythm, and the energy from everybody that spoke volumes. Didn't even me talking much, so hopefully you got some of the essence of the energy we were in. It was amazing, so it speaks louder than words. So I'm going to do a next clip. These are both on my Simply Gorgeous Instagram and my YouTube. However, hi everybody anyway, thank you for joining. However, I cannot work out how to get it on the phone. So this is Pete Stiley, kind of winging it. So here we go. So this is, like I say, this is going to be a section or a clip, if I can find it again. It's going to be interesting. Let's have a look. Here we go.
If the earth is a woman, if the sea is a woman, if the moon is a woman, I know God is a woman. If a man needs a woman by his side, a superwoman. If we all love a woman, then shall we respect the woman's you're stronger than you know. Since we came from a woman who gave it all for her children, if their souls are from heaven, then shall to under.
Now that is, like I say, on my Instagram and on the YouTube. Now, what inspired me to do that? Okay, maybe I lost you for a second, but that is on my Instagram, Simply Gorgeous Instagram, and the YouTube. So what inspired me to do that about 7 months ago? Basically, I realized what happened. Something happened, and I got some pictures, and then wow, and then the song came on. What a beautiful song, and what a beautiful song. And it brought up some feelings and some emotions that I realized that wasn't resolved. Not that I have to resolve them, but just out of the blue, certain emotions came up that weren't truly expressed at the given moment of my sister's funeral, passing. So it was so beautiful to compile that, and that's my gift, that's my sharing, and what I can say for men, men, if we really need to do our emotional work, honestly need to do our emotional work, because what happens is the women become the scapegoats. Women, children, many people become the scapegoats, but the women are the most conduit, the children are even the more conduit. We were all once children, remember, we were all once children. Don't just sort of separate yourself from, oh, that child, this child. However, in whatever way a child is behaving is a conduit to its environment, to us as the father and the mother, and to other people coming in. So rather than look out and to get caught up in the outward manifestation of what the child is doing, it's like, draw the energy back. What's going on around in the environment? What's going on in me that I'm repressing? What's going on potentially in someone else? And it's not a heady thing. Just get more connected, do different protocols, whatever it is. I'll definitely get off the dairy and the meat. I'm going to throw that in. Might lose some people here, but that's fine. Even women, so much respect for women. But however, if you're really into the feminine and into really as a woman, you would not be exploiting any other animal, because respectively they're going to be a mother or a child of another sentient being, and so that's riddled. So respect to you all. However, as a sentient being, I have more respect for the sentient beings, because let's just say that's a big neglect that we're just taking for granted, and it's been programmed in our minds as if that's just normal. It is not normal. So we're wise to really get off that, and the women can really get into their power. Once again, I might lose loads, and you can project out onto me. Who am I? What do I know? I'm just going to share what I share, and share what I've witnessed in members passing, in my journey from shifting from heavy, more processed foods, thinking I'm eating fairly healthy, recognizing my dreams, working deeply into shadow work, potentially constellation work, potentially what does that mean in terms of inner inquiry, literally working with my dreams every night for over 2 years, and then coming off the meat and dairy or whatever, and then your whole reality shifts. I use Jinshin Jitsu, which is amazing protocol, amazing self-help protocol to release certain blockages in our body. They say it's the grandmother of acupuncture. So we have stagnant cellular memories, stagnant in different places of our bodies, hence why certain tumors or cysts manifest. If you look it up esoterically, you can find the reasons. Lung, kidney, ovaries, they will all have association generally with a shock, a trauma, a guilt, a blame. So I'm going on a bit down that path a bit, aren't I? So this was and is about the respect to women. We all come from women. And, the women who may think, all men should respect us. I'm not going to respect a woman who is not respecting herself. It just doesn't, that is not true natural law, And it's not I make a choice. If you just drop into the feeling, you wouldn't be giving someone potentially respect for when they're not respecting themselves, not respecting others, and other sentient beings. So it's just like, the whole worshipping, cows, and then we're still eating the cow or taking the milk, etc. But this is about women, and the respect to true, authentic women. As far as I'm concerned, coming into line. Us as men supporting women in their true essence. How can us as men support women in their true essence? We have to be accountable for our emotions. Some people say, yeah, what about this people? What about? Well, again, if someone wants to sit with me, but I will not really waste my time. All I can do, the best thing you can do is work on yourself, and for me, and all I can do for you is keep working on myself. All the projections, if we're projecting out, just draw that in. And someone might say, well, you're projecting out now, Pete. It's, to me, a witness and observation, And to me, I've lost 2 sisters and, seen other people pass. And, I'm not sad about it, because the whole more metaphysical, holistic experience that I had was epic, epic. So, however, the idea is to learn from that and integrate that. So it's witnessing, and whoever doesn't want to be here and think I'm talking a load of nonsense, please move on. There's other platforms. So again, respecting to women, however, us as men being accountable for our inner emotions, because otherwise we're just caught up in this sort of loose feeding, this nonsense of drama, because, why isn't anyone taking any notice of me? Because you're not taking notice of yourself. Why is this always happening to me? Because generally it's inner stories that haven't been resolved. So if you took it from a positive perspective, it's like, thank you, Spirit, for showing me that. Thank you, Spirit, realms, guidance, or our own higher self. Thank you for showing me that, rather than having a negative connotation. It's just like, oh, well, there must be a red warning light somewhere. Where is that? Just drop in, do practices so you can go deeper to see it, as opposed to keep blaming. Because otherwise we're all in this loop, and blaming everyone else, because we cannot sit with ourselves. And then we get into all these addictions, different addictions, one after another. And everyone's in addiction, and everyone thinks that's normal, And then the potentially not disillusioned ones are classed as if they are. So that's another topic. So once again, I shared this epic 1-minute version in the beginning of us in Madrid. Happened to be here, happened to be in the very hour on the streets, with a massive crowd. I mean, I'm not sure how many people there may have been, with massive samba going on, and the energy was epic. And that drew me back to recognizing, putting on this Living Field stream about Women's International Day, We all come from women. So any issues any of us have got with women against women, men against women, put it to bed. You really need to sit with yourself. Even if as a man, even if the woman still has stuff on you, you just need to come and resolve your inner field, your inner emotions. Generally, your issues, deep issues that we've had with our mum, and then all the negative relationships, so-called negative relationships, if they are, stem from that, from our unresolved imprint. Unfortunately, generally the mums and fathers don't know. They're caught up in the same imprinting, hence the old ancestral stories that go on and go on. And that there's a sort of, let's just say it's all now. So when I say ancestral, it's all within us. You can get caught up on healing the ancestors. I've done so much work. I did all this, do this. I've said before, if I was up there, I'm like, look, work on yourself. Leave me alone, please. That's what I would be saying. I've said it to a few people. It's just like, look, I'm sure they would say, look, you can do nothing for me apart from work on yourself. I can do nothing for you. Probably, but just to stay in that realm and be happy. So I'm ramping on a bit here, but so, we all come from women. We all come from women. And if men and the women, if we all want to have respect for ourselves and each other, we really need to look at our own inner nervous system. Is it regulated? Is it unregulated? What does that mean, Pete? It's just like, well, how do we really feel? Are we just running the gauntlet? Are we just busy all the time? So you're going to be unregulated, And I never knew how unregulated I was until a big wake-up call 18 years ago. From there, I just thought that was the norm, And whoa, it took me so many years to get back to a potentially more regulated essence in myself, So I personally see the best thing we can be doing is, we talk about love. And that's so distorted, the word is so overused. For instance, going back more in my ignorance, if I really had my love for a partner, I'd be getting a big, best pizza, big this, big that. And I look back now in retrospect, I've just given her a big bomb, And so what am I doing? Just aspiring in my lack of awareness, where I was shut down. I am like a prison guard, as everyone, majority of people, keeping each other in the same loop, in the same drama, in the same trauma. So I just give my partner, thinking it's the best thing I could do from my conditioning of love, I've given her a bomb. Wheat, salt, sugar, cheese, dairy, and if it's got pepperoni on it, I've just nuked my partner. Why do I want to nuke my partner? Why do I want to nuke my children? Because if they're more vibrating from a more higher connection, it's going to bring up my stuff, So, we need to really look at that. And we are all on a level playing that. Not to give ourselves a hard time. We just work at it bit by bit, seeing we are all part of all the nonsense that goes on. If all the war, okay, bringing in the war now. I haven't spent too much or put too much attention there. Why? Because there's always been war going on. Congo, Palestine. I mean, Congo before Palestine. And then, what can we truly believe? Yeah, of course it all went on. How true it is defined and the historical data on it, but yes, it's always gone on. So what am I going to do? Keep getting busy with everything else and then talking with everyone else, feeding that negativity, bringing myself into a lower vibration. Yeah, but Pete, you got to know what's going on. Well, you maybe need to know what's going on inside and need to know why you're doing that and why you're getting caught up in that, why you're addicted to all these outward projections. What are you running away from, and how you're being fed on, and how the masses are being fed on, and how we're all caught up in the lower realms. So maybe the ones who think I need to really look at that craziness, maybe they need to go in and look at what it's bringing up for them and maybe use it as a tool. Yes, horrific things that are going on. However, it's not new to some people, So just because it's coming on our doorstep, really potentially on our doorstep, as it has been said, it's always been there. We've always had this inner war. There's a war on our minds. There's been a war on our minds for a long, long, long time. So if we had done some more inner work, this wouldn't faze us, The idea is if you have a more of a connection, it's the outward reflection of our inner turmoil. If we're really getting caught up in it and triggered, then we've got a lot of inner trauma and inner turmoil. So there's your MK Ultra, whatever it is, certain things to trigger us, and then we're locked. Where we could all be ascending. We could all be in our more lighter being bodies, higher vibration. But no, we want to blame him, blame her. He said this, he said that. She said this, she said that. certain president said this and he's doing that, I mean, what a theatre. Wow. I mean, you go in, you cannot get a better theatre actually with going in on the inner realms. I mean, you know, people tell me about certain tricks and things they take, etc. I can sit with them and generally blow their minds with just my work through breath work. You know, that was my introduction in the very early days when I was 17. So what am I saying here? I had many more things to say, but on a level, you know, you make whatever sense you may want to make of it. So thank you who is joining. And yeah, so a big reflection. We all come from women. We all come from women. So any issue, especially from the man to the woman, any issues we've got, really wise to seek, whether it is advice, go in. You have the opportunity to go to the seed, honestly to the seed. If we stop blaming her, him, you know, when people say, she broke my heart or he broke my heart, it's like, come on. That experience made you aware of your already broken heart. And if you just take that person away, you would be able to go deeper to the seed of it and then potentially blossom. Majority of the time, like me in the past, maybe touched a little bit, never was able to go to the seed of it. So what do? We become self-fulfilling prophecy. See, I told you, that always happens to me. Women are always like that. And the same with guys. See, that guy is always like that. Because we haven't resolved the issue. So if you saw it not so negative, saw it like, wow, I still got debris. Thank you for showing me that. It's like, wow, that's so painful. But wow, thank you. You know, just take the person out the scene and see where you can go and see what manifests. You don't have to search. You don't have to think. You know, it's not an intellectual thing. You know, you just let be, and then when, let's just say, your body is ready, it will show you the core essence of why that keeps happening. You know, why are we in such a mess? So there we are. We go into a relationship. We're clueless. Honestly, there's so much depth of what our mums and dads and what I do even as a parent, what we have done. There's so many deeper levels we cannot even see. We can see the obvious, that how we trigger and shut down our children. So there's going to be undercurrent, bitterness, anger, frustration, resentment. So then we meet our partners. So this all gets played out. Not saying that people can't have happy relationships. We have unspoken contracts, you know. And if that's your contract, you know, beautiful. And if it worked for you, beautiful. You know, if that's your purpose in life, you know. Some people have asked, you know, let's just say on the living field, this is the living field. This is something, whatever I've coined. This is what I want to do. I'm going to have different guests on. I'm going to have an amazing woman on Wednesday. Someone hopefully it's going to be every Sunday. There's been an hour difference here, so I apologize for that. So people ask me about the weighing of the heart. Why have you got the weighing of the heart, Pete, on your flyer? And the Ankh and the Eye of Horus. Potentially about 8 months ago, just about to do an event, just was going to pop up the store, and I could not sleep for 3 or 4 days. And the last day is just like, because I was getting the Mahat, the weighing of the heart, and it was impressed upon me to draw it on our catering, our raw vegan catering horse box. So the evening before, I'm like, Hannah, I'm not going to get any sleep. We've got to do this. So we basically up to about early hours of the rising, doing this board, and then put it on the next day, and then the Eye of Horus come in, and then the Ankh. So, you know, immortality, vitality, you could say protection, and the Mahat, the weighing of the heart. So, you know, I could say, which I do say, we're in the Mahat times, you know, but once again, i.e. there's war, we've always been in the Mahat times. There's always been, let's just say, war going on. Potentially, I feel we're coming into a battlefield. And so we put it on there. So whatever anyone else wants to make of them three symbols is up to them. However, I'm always going to draw it back to me. That's meant for me. However, I'm sharing that out like I have with the food for 17 years. You know, in a subtle way. Food and sauna, generally a health space to give, to share with people. Share what I was getting in the first 2 years. This is like, oh, wow. You know, this is so... words could not explain it. So I wanted to share that with people, and then realizing how messed up and unregulated my nervous system was, and in fight or flight that it had kind of calmed. So I wanted to share that, you know, realizing how lost we are as a human species, you know, and again, as a human species, one of the species, and in terms of the, you know, genocide with other species. So that's another topic, but it's a big topic. It's why do we feel like we go one step back forward and 2 steps back? You know, we could do workshop after workshop, yoga after yoga, etc., etc., and then we go and eat the dairy and the meat, the flesh, you know. And these days we don't even know what flesh we're eating. So, you know, how we acquiesce, we've been tricked in simple things that we do is acquiescing. You know, there's a natural law. We've been played by a natural law. So, you know, there's so many other things after that. So I am going on a little bit here. I was supposed to be playing something else. If anyone wants to pop any questions, please go ahead if you have got any questions. Again, you know, I've had, was it Danielle? I think we had her Thursday. That was beautiful. Had Yamtree Sunday before. Sam, Human. Got some other people coming on. And, you know, I could talk for a long, long time, honestly, in terms of many things, you know, in the relation to astrology and what I've witnessed from a sort of psychological physiology perspective. You know, Jin Shin is the art, is an art in itself. It's very physiology. And then the combination, I realized by coming across the raw vegan foods, that was the missing puzzle for me. Never was really addressed with potentially all the other esoteric sort of stuff, chemic, hermetic, Essene kind of awareness that I had before. But then if I follow the Essene, it's just blatantly there. You know, light should not kill, should put nothing in one's mouth that potentially is dead, you know. Nothing that can, nothing that is dead. Even frozen foods. Yeah, I do some frozen cakes at times. So, you know, we're all not so-called perfect, whatever that really means. We do our best. So, that was the missing link for me. That's another story, to be honest. So this is a streaming. This will go live on the YouTube. So it started from Women's International Day. You know, so much respect for women. So much respect for my mum. What such a pioneer she was. Had 6 of us, you know. And, you know, I'm the youngest. And it's just like, how can I say that? Some of my siblings might be just saying, what do you mean, Pete? She did this, she did that. You know, oh man, look at what that generation had stacked against them. You know, come out of yourself, come out of your pain, come out of your trauma. Look at what that generation had to go through. I mean, you know, if you do your own inner work, you start to see. Once again, I'm not going to I bow down to them in terms of respect, but we keep healthy boundaries. Doesn't mean we just open up and allow certain nonsense to come in because they may be still caught up in nonsense. You know, that sometimes the trauma is so strong that nothing can really be done. You just have to come to some kind of potential compromise, or if it means even not seeing them for a long time, that's down to the individual, especially if it affects their, I'm going to say, healthy boundaries. So the living field, to me, you know, there's a book I'm working on, many notes I've had over the years around children, my experience of children, and certain real strange experiences that had happened to me over many years, me as a child, and then me having children. So there's many notes I'm putting together, and this is called The Living Field and Children as Mirrors. So touching that a little bit. So we are all the children. We are all the conduits. We've just so forgotten. We've just so forgotten. Why have we forgotten? Because most of us have got these kind of like viruses in us that stop us from going back into releasing that pain, as well as we got this whole program on pain, how bad and how painful it is, you know, and it's a program. We changed the thinking. Yes, it's going to be that word for a while until it shifts, and then it's not as painful. It becomes so fruitful, you know. And when you realize you take a few jumps and it's just like, whoa, you know, fear, false evidence appearing real. We take a jump and then it's like, oh my gosh, that was not as scary as I thought, you know. And you keep jumping, and then maybe occasionally you might get caught out. But just remember the times when you jumped and it just all fell into place. Don't remember that one time or 2 times out of 10 when it didn't. You know, don't forget the 8 when it did. You know, we're kind of addicted. You know, we're very addicted to our old behavioral patterns that we got, the old programs, you know. So you really need to hack the mind and keep bringing in the new, bringing in the positive, bringing in the beauty, bringing in the good things. Yes, there's so many. Yeah, but what about this going on? What about that going on? Again, I haven't paid too much of attention. You know, is that really ignorant of me? Is that really unauthentic of me? No, it's not. If we all started working on ourselves to put ourselves in a better field, better place, then for one, you wouldn't be able to, the shadow part of yourself or whatever, there wouldn't be this mass energy that could be fed on to have all this nonsense going on in the world, you know. So that's a massive big part. And I'm sure someone can debunk that, but that's fine. This is, you know, all you can do for me is keep working on yourself. All I can do is keep working on myself. And then we aspire to come to an essence of presence. So 2 present people meet, 2 people in love, stand in love. You know, 2 people have fallen in love, are going to fall in love, you know, and then they're going to fall. Where have they fallen? You know, they stand in love, you know. Stand in love uniquely. Yeah, some attachments will happen, but ultimately you found the love for yourself, you know. So then all this blame and stuff, and even if you do get caught up in that, just stop it. Stop the blame game, you know. You know, that's you feeding all the wars and the nonsense. You keep feeding that negativity. That's you feeding that, you know. That's us being used to feed that nonsense. So just pack it in, slow it down, you know, come back to yourself, you know, and start truly nurturing and loving yourself. And again, yeah, my last 18 years journey has been the food, you know. It's a symbiotic relationship of the thinking, not to say just because someone's got the food together, they are together and they're mentally stable and etc. But, you know, from a big part, let's just say vegetarian to vegan to raw vegan. Vegetarians really need to stop the dairy. Vegans, beautiful, but we all need to stay off the processed and the more high dense. From a raw perspective, I thought I was raw in the beginning, having heavy cashews, heavy dates, heavy bananas. So technically, to what I realize now, and the fruits from this country, especially out of season, wasn't really doing me any good. So, and then you realize why we fell, because most vegans it didn't work for me because I felt lacking of this, lacking of that. It's just like, well, what were you eating? It's like, really? Oh, so packaged processed stuff, as well as this. It's not just the food, what's your environment? Are you still doing this job you hated, or are you still thinking negatively, Be nice if you could just take a pill or just do the food and everything just shifts, or just change your hairstyle and everything shifts. It don't. You're going to keep shifting, changing your hairstyle every other strength, because it's the inner work. I laugh because so many people keeps changing their hairstyles, and so yeah, the living field. So this is about respect to women. Someone might say, well, that wasn't, but some bits weren't very respectful. I ultimately have respect for us as a human species, and as to all sentient beings. So any women doing the dairy and the meats, I'm not going to say I don't respect you. I have more respect for the sentient beings that are being harmed, So if any word there, I would say, please have a good look at what you're doing. There's big agendas to keep the women disconnected, because the women, we all come from women. So to me, they've been got at a long time ago, and still are. And then here we are, the men in our issues, keep repressing the women. The women doing, in a sense, as the children are, being a conduit to the men's repressed emotions. Not just men, there's women. All our stories. So I don't want to go on about the men, but me as a man to share other man to man. That's what I would say to the men. Come on, man up. We talk about man, and we eating this meat and eating this. That's the real man. It's just like you're just reiterating movies. You're reiterating the spell. You're reiterating, horrific rape, torture. And it's just like you don't realize what you're truly doing. However, that's your story. So, to truly man up, fast. See where that takes you. Even come off the heavy meats, the flesh. Basically rotten, decomposed flesh. And then the eggs, talk about the eggs, it's just a reproductive waste. Look it up. I did them. There's this love word again. Used to love them. Wow, that love word gets thrown around everywhere. So, yeah, love, that's it. What is love? So, from a perspective of women, so much respect. I have so much respect for my mum. Such a pioneer. And again, siblings could say, what about this, what about that? Yeah, well, I'm going to just go in and release that. Release the potential neglect. Release the odd little smacks and this and that. And release that I didn't get this and I didn't get that. Release that I didn't potentially get what that boy got. Release the fact that we were potentially more deprived. Whatever. All stories. I want to hang on to them stories and be a crippled man and holding on to them stories and bitter and twisted, and not be able to kind of meet you one-to-one in a field, and inspired to connect with you because of my story. If I'm seeing a woman, all I'm seeing is my mum. If I'm seeing a certain man and I've had issues with my brother, am I just seeing my brother everywhere? So, so we're just running these programs, So it's really wise. Or we may hibernate because we don't want to meet ourselves, Yes, human beings have got a lot to answer for. However, we can go into isolation and hide from ourselves. Healthy boundaries are good, but not so it's detrimental, because you're just slowing down potential karma. You're running away and hiding from the aspects you are self-fulfilling, prophesizing in people, seeing in people, which is you. However, if it's conflict, that's because it's the conflict that you are projecting out, that you create, So start, if that's happening, bring love to yourself. Beam out love, smiles, beam out love. Keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. So, I'm pleased I came on. And so the big part of it was, we happened to be in Madrid, happened to be in the main hour, walking up the street when it was all closed off, and on Women's International Day in Madrid. Oh my word. I'm sure they do different celebrations in different ways in different countries. But it was powerful, very powerful. So such a blessing. So it was so auspicious that we were here on that day. So that spurred many things off. Spurred an old post I did about 7 months ago in relation to my sister. Excuse me. And then I think there's one before that, which was to do with, called A Glimpse Now and Again. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just pull up a little bit of that. And it was about 1 a.m. Again, I could not get any sleep after days and days. And I'm like, I just got to do this. It's 1 a.m. so I'm tired, and I'm reading off words I did at my mother's wake 12 years ago. So what I'm going to aspire to do here right now is just do a little bit of this. He says. And then say a few things. And then, what would be really nice as well. Yeah, you can see the full words of me speaking these words. Am I even going to get these words? Let's see if I can find them. So thank you for bearing with me here, everybody. But basically it was, where am I going to go? I'm going to try here. I'm sure you can bear with me a few more minutes. Okay, I'm not really going to find this now. I thought I had it all resolved. The big problem, we couldn't pull it up on the while I'm streaming, so we've got to resolve that one. So yeah, in short, it's called A Glimpse Now and Again, and it was to do with my mother who passed about 12, maybe 14 years ago. And when she passed, the evening before, I had this dream, such an amazing dream, and she showed herself as a white unicorn. Can you imagine? Me at the time, I'm like, no, come on. I already had a thing with unicorns, not a positive thing, because, you see the children with unicorns. So mine was, I kind of, honestly, I would laugh inside. I would have a smile inside. Really? So when my mother appeared as that, I was like, really, Mum? Really? So I had to look into it a bit more. And where we were on the Glastonbury area, we just happened to be on a kind of, let's just say, more astrological part of the zodiac, which was to do with the unicorn. So I've embraced it now. And then when you look back in history and you look at the coats of arms, that was really interesting. When I mentioned it to my friend, he says, yeah, Pete, have a look at the coats of arms. And I looked at the coats of arms and it's like, whoa, there's a unicorn and it's chained down, supposedly by a lion. And it's like, well, that's a pretty strange lion. I suggest everyone have a look at that. In terms of these Chinese zodiac sign where we are and unicorns and potential other beings that we've been or archetypes is really interesting. So what am I going to leave you with? I laugh, but I'm just going to quickly check something. Why can I not find that? Where did I put it? Okay. Oh, we're getting closer now. Never know, I might get some assistance in a sec. Okay, well, what I'm going to suggest is this was from, oh yeah, I'm going to get some assistance. Let's see if we can pull it up somewhere. So yeah, the only glimpse and an only glimpse now and again. So it was really important in terms of, so I've had people pass. We've all had people pass away. You know, when my sister passed away when I was 28 and she was 33, left two lovely son and a daughter. The experience she gave me was epic. I would never have truly experienced that if I hadn't done certain work and dream work when I was 17 over a couple of years. So to me, the essence of that, we go through tears. It's, I would suggest everyone go through whatever comes up, not to suppress anything. However, I will say to someone, well, I would advise, okay, let's get in and out of it quick as we can. The classic guy thing is, come on, man, let's go down the pub. Come on, man, let's go and get stoned. Whoa, generally the classic is where I was from. It's like, what? So this is such a beautiful opportunity, but what do? We sedate even more. So for me, I had other protocols, and it was so nice to go within and get shown a more true essence of people passing over. So after that, I had to hold myself down. People will say, oh yeah, my brother or sister's just passed. And I'm like, wow, did you get this? Did you get that? And after a while, it's like, wow, I can't share that. I cannot share the experience I had because on a level, we like suffering. We like to stay in our selfishness because it's all about ourself, what we've lost, what we're feeling and want to feed on that. Why don't we just go through that so we can elevate and we can blossom, So, there's a lot on that. I'm not going to, it's not putting anyone down. It's just sharing an experience. But there's so many things. See, this is the thing. So many things. I mean, there's people here now. And I'm sure some people would love to share some of their experiences. But it's like we're so browbeaten down that we cannot share certain experiences. So my experience of someone passing was, I'm back, I've had to work on that to come back to that because of all the peer pressure. You're not supposed to feel great. You're not supposed to feel elevated, And so anyone asks me, I'm like, well, I can share, and I've helped people to work through certain grief to potentially receive a bigger picture of what they are meant to get. It's unique to an individual, to wherever they're at. And the same thing, okay, what comes to mind, birthing. We've done a free birth, home birth, lotus birth, skin to skin for 10 days. It's just like, well, you cannot really sort of say that too much because people tend to either having cesarean or not having great births. But it's like, no, it's like, women should be allowed to say, I had a wild birth, I had a free birth, I had a home birth, See, all this certain pressure and browbeating down. And it's just like, so other women or people can aspire to get to that. It may not happen. It's not to put anyone else down, but yes, it's like bringing back in some of the old ways, some of the more connected ways that our elders have lost. Let's be browbeaten out of them. And once again, I go back to my mum, what that generation and the generation before them had to put up with. Took me 18 years to just get back to a certain connection. If they've been 40, 50 years at it, it's just like the connection potentially is lost. It's too deep, too much trauma upon trauma upon trauma to get to the seed of the trauma, because it's never got to the seed. So they're blaming him, her, this, that. And unfortunately, it does seem to unravel like that, spill out like that, because of never really getting to the seed of the issue, So I'm going on a little bit here. Anyway, I'm just going to give you a little bit of this. This is on my YouTube, Instagram, and this was called The Glimpse, Only a Glimpse Now and Again. This was, like I say, about 14 years ago. This is what I got from my mum. I'm only going to put a few minutes on, and then I'm going to end it with just a few words and go from there. But this is about what spurred this on again. If someone looks at the whole message from the beginning, Women's International Day. So I have so much respect for my mum who's passed, my two sisters who've passed, and other women all around the world. And the guys, man up, come on, and the women up. We need to be accountable for our emotions. Stop browbeating each other down. Men be accountable for our emotions. So women aren't the scapegoats of that generally, and recognizing we all came from women, So if this relates, I'm only going to play a few minutes and then end it.
My mum had passed 13, 14 years ago, and it was impressed upon me at the time to share within the first 3 months. So how time flies, should I say. So bear with me. It's been a long time, and I'm not that well rehearsed in actually my reading, English, grammar, etc. So here goes. And again, it's been impressed on me for the last few days. So the veil must be very thin at the moment, and our beloved ones, ancestors, must be aspiring to come through and help us on our way. That's the way I see it. When it happens so many times, it's like, okay, I'm hearing you. So this is called Only a Glimpse Now and Again. There were some notes. So the night before my mum died, I had this dream. She was presented, or should I say, presented herself to me in her prime, the most beautiful and happiest I had ever seen. The dream expressed her epic pioneering life. She was represented as a white unicorn, but I chose to use a mare as that seemed much more comprehensible, acceptable, and easy to grasp by most, and me too, actually. It's ironic though, after finishing these words, which took me over about 5 days, because I was not rehearsed at this at all, the day before Mum's funeral, and where I actually read it out at the wake. I was talking to a friend before and mentioned the unicorn. He said, yeah, if you ever looked on the coats of arms, Pete, it's like, no, it's like, yeah, the unicorn's chained down by a so-called lion. And I had a look like, whoa, that's a strange looking lion. So that's really depicting a certain time if one wants to look at it, into it. So food for thought. Back to what was impressed upon me, shown by my mother and my siblings' mum, and what she wanted me to share and express at that time. I got inspired and busy, aspiring to put pen to paper for this occasion, not done before, not knowing if it would even get out there. So if you can bear with me, that would be great, being that my spelling and grammar is not too cool, as I might have had been really, really smart then while so small, as I used to run away from school. It's called again, only a glimpse now and again. From where she came, she could see no one the same from where she came, only a glimpse now and again, born into a world of fancies which numbed down her senses like a spirited mare lost from her herd, seeking and seeking for her siblings and stallion, but to no avail. So in the end, she eventually fell. In her life, she always knew the life laid out for her was not true. She could not wait to come of age, to get away from the very high fences which numbed down her senses. When the time came, she believed she was free. Little did she know that there was a lot she could not see. Secretly counting the years, the months, the days, until finally she became of age. On that day, she ran.
So I'm going to leave it there because it goes on, to be honest, it goes on for nearly 30 minutes. So to be honest, I wrote some things down, and this is really just ad-libbing it. And it's all cool because my nervous system is regulated and it's relaxed, and just keeping it authentic in the moment. So have I got that? So what I wrote down. So blessed love everyone who's seen this to the end. Whoever may go and watch this is going to be streamed, saved. So sometimes life only gives us a glimpse now and again, a glimpse of who we are, a glimpse of where we came from, a glimpse of the people who helped shape our journey. So tonight began with a moment from the streets of Madrid on the International Women's Day, which I mentioned earlier on. And in many ways that feels fitting, because so much of what carries life forward, so much of what nurtures, protects and sacrifices, the sacrifices our mums have given us. What about her? What about this? Forget that. They've sacrificed so much, and the dads, Just look at the positive sides of things, So come through the feminine now. So much sacrifice comes through the feminine. Still have your healthy boundaries though. Anyway, principles, mothers, daughters, grandmothers, sisters, all of the women. The quiet strength that often holds everything together, their strength. And perhaps the deeper invitation is simply this: to remember who we are beyond the fences that numbs down the senses. To remember the connection we once knew. To remember the love that continues even after someone has gone. So that love for my mum, my sisters is still there. It hasn't gone, doesn't disappear. It's just, if it disappears, we've shut down. We've got caught up in stories. So sometimes we may only see it as a glimpse now and again, I see it more than that. But those glimpses are enough to remind us that something deeper is still there. So basically, blessed love, everybody. This has been the Living Field Show with alias or AKI Pete. I tell Ross, Pete.